The Holy See's position, which the Archbishop has summarized, I suggest in the past year has taken a step beyond what existed before. There were strong statements previously, but if you analyze the intrinsic logic of the statements, as the Archbishop indicated, there always was a door open that said you might have to stay with deterrence if you were ever to get beyond deterrence and arms control to a world without nuclear weapons. So the fact that the Holy See has in its own way, called for going to zero, its position that is identical in its conclusion with the four major voices. In one sense, that's not new news, as the Archbishop has indicated. It is new news in terms of the critique of the theory of deterrence that was in the Vienna Statement. Deterrence had always been criticized on three grounds: cost, consequences, and then the chance of failure. Cost was the humanitarian issues, either in terms of use or diversion of funds. Consequences were that the deterrence argument was always based on the assumption this was the best way to prevent the use of nuclear weapons. The contemporary discussion of the Holy See, in a sense, moves away from that. So its conclusion on going to zero is not new. Its conclusion about deterrence, which argues that it is not a sound moral way to even sustain the position that has been held earlier, is the major change. And so it is those two things that have marked the statements of the past year. Final point. There are always questions when you make a statement of radicality about how you will then answer the critiques. And there will be critiques. There is the question of the transition. It is one thing to say that deterrence doesn't have moral fiber and going to zero is the objective. The question is how you get there. Strategists, when they question deterrence's viability, do it on the basis of prudence. When you do it on the basis of morality, the consequences for public policy and personal life become questions of a different nature than the prudential questions of strategists. Secondly, there is the analysis authority argument. There is no question about the Holy See's authority to speak in moral and religious terms. There is no question that the authority of this Pope has a kind of compelling character in the public debate that is almost unrecognizable in any of his predecessors. But there is the empirical reality that you at least have to answer. So I return to Schelling. Schelling's in engaging not the Holy See, but the Gang of Four. Schelling's argument is he has not yet been shown that the world will be a safer place with no nuclear weapons than with a few nuclear weapons that function in a deterrent mode. That's a reasonable question from a very skilled interpreter of the nuclear age. And when you make a conclusion as we've made, you have to be ready to answer that question, because the nuclear debate does not hang only on normative questions, but on normative questions that have to be measured and encountered with empirical data. So that's a road ahead for any of us and all of us who are part of this debate. But there is, as I say, to go back to authority, a unique authority in this Pope, which is somewhat different than the conclusions he draws, or doesn't rest only on his conclusions. And that's a very important fact in itself. Thank you.